So thank you, Sarah. Thanks for. By the way, I like your word, the operative word showcase, because that's part of what we want to talk about tonight is how to showcase orthotics properly. And so we're going to talk about the 5 secrets to using orthotics to grow your practice. And Dr. DeCaro is going to cover the first 3, and I'll fill in after that. So many of you know me, but if you don't, my name is Randy Rosler. I'm the National Director of Podiatry Content Connection, and we are a digital marketing agency for podiatrists only. And we're all about helping private practice podiatrists attract new patients from the web, enhance your reputation online, and also help you monetize special services, things like laser, shockwave, and orthotics. We've been doing this over 10 years. And we've been giving back to the colleges during that time. We actually do the online marketing for Kent State University and Barry University as well, where we give back to about 4 different colleges. What can I say about Dr. DeCaro? So he's got a laundry list here. I won't read the whole thing, but I just tell you how I know him as one of the top pediatric podiatrists in the United States, kind of a leader in this area. He actually, next month, I'm looking forward, he actually hosts an event in Utah in Moab, which I've never been to before in a national park. So really looking forward to that, getting to know him. And he's a successful private practice owner and as far as I'm concerned, an authority when it comes to orthotics and practice management around it. So I'm excited to see what he's got to share today. So I'm going to, in a moment, I'm going to hand this off to him and let him do his thing, and I'll circle back after that. So we're going to be talking about the 5 secrets to using orthotics to grow your practice. And again, Dr. DeCaro will start with the first 3, and I'm going to let him share his screen and take it from there.
All right, thanks, Randy. I appreciate that. Let's get this all shared up here. Hello, everyone. Randy, thanks for having me. PCC, thanks for sponsoring this. Really appreciate it. So I'm going to cram a 16-hour lecture in about 20 minutes on how to be successful. This was really a great task to do because really had me think hard about what makes my orthotics practice successful. Most of my patients are pediatrics, but also have some adult patients. And most of my patients are involved in my orthotic practice. Orthotics, if you do simple math, you multiply how many human beings are in America and you multiply it by about $500, you have about $165 billion market for orthotics. So really the sky is the absolute limit. So before I get to my 3 secrets, I just want to kind of throw these principles out here. There are no good feet. Every single patient that comes into your office has a problem. And that problem will happen at some point during their lives, and that problem stems from poor foot biomechanics. Feet were not made for what we do. Our pronation causes problems. And once again, there's always a problem. So whether you're seeing a surgical patient and prepping them, whether you're seeing a post-op patient and talking to them about the future, whether you're seeing a kid, an adult, plantar fasciitis, neuromas, you name the diagnosis, there's always a mechanical reason behind it, and there always is a solution through orthotics. Every patient and non-patient, and we're going to talk about that in a second, is an orthotics candidate. There is no bigger market in our field. We are the experts in the world on this. And in order to grow your practice successfully, market yourself, live a comfortable life, orthotics can be really, really helpful for all aspects of this. So number 1, so we're going to talk about 3 secrets. By far, number 1 is education. Education, education, education. Making sure every single patient is well educated about why they have their certain condition. I get to travel the world and I get to lecture on biomechanics and orthotics. And the biggest flaw we have in our profession is the lack of biomechanics education. Now, we also have that as an advantage because there are some good biomechanical educators out there and there's plenty of resources out there. But I say that's a disadvantage sometimes because if you don't understand the education, if you don't understand the biomechanics, and you're not able to educate your patients are not going to trust your reasoning for orthotics. They're not going to actually understand the reason behind the problem they have. And at the end of the day, you're not going to be able to grow your orthotics program because they're simply just not going to understand why you want to put them in some quote unquote expensive pair of orthotics. We all view things expensive until we know that we need them. And the best way to convince someone that they need something is to educate them. We are not salespeople. Podiatrists come up to me all the time and they say, I feel like a salesman. That's a lack of education. That's an inability to explain to the patient why they have their condition. And when I get to travel around, my premise of education, and I'm sure many of you on this Zoom have come to one of my seminars, but I preach that there are 24 different foot types, and out of that, there are 6 functional foot groups. And every single patient who comes in my office is foot typed, both with a number as well as a letter. And this, along with an explanation of why they have their problem. This is a patented system that I helped develop. And this is something that is taught to every single patient. There are 4 steps for us to learn how to foot type. They're actually very simple. This is a QR code for going through the 4 steps you can take a picture of. But in general, there are 6 major foot categories. And every patient and every diagnosis that comes in at every age fits into one of these 6. And there's a reason why someone has a certain type of bunion. There's a reason why someone has Severs. There's a reason why someone has tarsal tunnel syndrome, ankle instability, a callus under the second, a neuroma between the second and third. There's a reason for all of this. There's a reason for sesamoiditis. It's not just because it magically feels like happening, or the patient is overweight, or the patient is wearing wrong shoes. It's all biomechanics. And so I throw this out to you. I'm sure many of you know I get to travel around and do a lot of lectures. So I have my own master's classes. I'm hoping to do some with Randy in the future where we teach this biomechanics. But whether you use my system or not, which I believe is by far the easiest way to explain the patients, make sure you have your education. You cannot pass go and collect 200 without the education. Quick example, the E foot type. That's one of those 6 major categories. This is a foot type that probably makes up about half of your practice. In my practice, being mostly pediatrics, it probably makes up about 70% of my population. That's why I published last year this evolution and treatment of the E foot type in Podiatry Manager magazine. This foot type is a troublemaker. This foot type is a foot type that causes these growing pains in kids, which is a term that's hard for me to explain, hard for me to say because growing pains don't actually exist. Knee pain, Taylor's bunionettes, Osgood-Schlatter, shin pain, plantar fasciitis, certain callus patterns, gait patterns. So this foot type, for example, is a very prevalent foot type. And every patient who comes in with this foot type, I have every patient stand. I see what foot type they are. I explain to them, this is what your foot is doing. This is why you have your condition. This is why you need orthotics. And we can do that at every age. A 7-year-old comes in, I know what issues they've had before then. I know what issues they're probably going to have after. A 40-year-old comes in, I know that if they played soccer in high school, they had X. And if they're going, as they get older, if they become continue to be a runner, they're going to have Y. I can predict the future as well as predict, I say it predict, the past of patients. When patients come in and they don't tell you what the issue is, when they don't tell you that they had shin splints when they were teenagers, but you tell them based on your foot type, I understand my biomechanics, I know you had shin splints and here's why, they trust you and they need orthotics. It's as simple as that. Every patient benefits from an orthotic. Our foundation, our way that our foot moves was not designed for the surfaces that we're on. It is a pronatory device pronating from many different places, and we have to control that pronation. If we don't control that pronation, there will be an orthopedic problem sometime in life, somewhere in the body, and it's all based on foot type. The second secret is genetics. It is amazing to me how little this is taught in our field. You know, we all know that those wonderful bald spots and our ability to have these beautiful sparkling blue eyes, or some, medical condition, diabetes, we know a lot of stuff is genetically based. Foot structure is no different. One of the ways that I've been able to grow my pediatric practice is through basically asking adult patients, who did you give those feet to? Because our foot structure, once again, one of 24 different types, one of 6 major categories, is congenital, just like all the good stuff and bad stuff that we get from our parents. So when I treat patients, I have the whole family come in at the same time. Do they all have an appointment? No. But they all come in, I foot type everyone, and by the end of the visit, I'm educating every single one of them what foot type they are and telling them why an orthotic is appropriate. Having that education tool, once again, is very important, and genetics plays a huge role. You can have a certain foot type in a 45-year-old who's having knee pain. You can ask them if they have kids, they'll say yes. You'll say, well, knee pain in a 14-year-old looks like shin splints. Do you have a 14-year-old? And they have a 14-year-old and they have shin splints. They're bringing them in. Have patients look at their kids' feet. Have them look and see if they look similar. If they look similar, we can prevent a lot of problems going forward. This is a picture here, classic picture. I see this every day. This is Dad. Dad has plantar fasciitis, history of knee pain, had shin splints in high school. When he was really, really young, he had some gross motor delay and a weak core. Then he had some growing pains in his legs. His daughter is set up for exactly the same scenario. The apples don't fall far from the foot tree. They don't. They just simply don't. We are what our parents are. And the quicker we understand the biomechanics of these adults, the quicker we understand the biomechanics of the kids, and the more we can prevent. Orthotics are great for so many things. They're great for getting rid of pain. They're great for preventing pain. They're great for just doing all sorts of things, making us stronger in our core, making us stronger in our hips, making us better athletes, improving our endurance, not just getting rid of pain. This is my treatment room, and this is a very typical family. It's no secret that I co-own an over-the-counter orthotics company. We make quadristep orthotics and little step orthotics. I'm sure all of you are very familiar with those. But I also do a ton of custom orthotics. And people say, well, why don't you get everyone custom orthotics? Because not everyone needs custom orthotics. I'm not there to just make money on custom orthotics for patients. I'm there to get patients what they need when they need them. And often it's a mix of over-the-counter as well as custom orthotics. And another thing, another secret too, is that what you have to understand is that you're a doctor. I think this is really, really important to remember on a day-in, day-out basis. You're not a salesman. You're a doctor. They're coming to you for a condition. And you have to be able to educate them, let them know why things are happening, and also let them know that you're not a Dr. Scholl's machine. You're not in Walmart as a category. You are a doctor who can make something specific to the patient. Understand what is an orthotic, what is an arch support, what is over-the-counter, what is custom orthotics. Make sure you draw that line. Why do I need a custom orthotic? Because here's how a custom orthotic works, and here's how an over-the-counter works. Be very clear about that, and we teach that in our classes. The last secret is marketing yourself. Always be marketing yourself. When you're in your treatment room, on the website, I use Podiatry Content Connection for my web provider. But for me, it's always been internal marketing, spending time with patients, not double booking them, not rushing through them, explaining to them what the issue is, explaining to them the biomechanics behind why an orthotic would be helpful, explaining to them that these things are congenital, giving them handouts. Every patient who comes in gets a handout. Every patient who comes in with other people in the room takes their shoes and socks off. Once again, don't double book. And you say, well, I have a lot of patients. Well, if you want to grow your practice, you want to be successful, you want to increase your orthotics practice because you want a better bottom line, don't rush your patients. Educate them. I can spend an hour with a patient, and by the end of the hour, I'll have their whole family have to come in for an appointment and get orthotics. That's how powerful what we do is. This little secret of podiatry is that, once again, there are no good feet. And if you understand your biomechanics, it also makes you a better surgeon. How often, for those on here who don't do a lot of orthotics and do a lot of surgery, how often are you thinking, what is the actual biomechanical explanation of why I'm doing this surgery? After the surgery, what is the actual biomechanical thing that's going to cause this condition to come back again, unless I prevent it coming back with an orthotic or slow down the progression? So no matter what hat you wear in our field, and no matter what patient that you treat on any given day, they are all an orthotics candidate. Every single patient that you see is one of those 24 foot types that I showed. And every single one of those patients that you treat and their family members are excellent candidates for orthotics. It's as simple as that. It's your job, though, to market yourself through education, through understanding genetics, through giving handouts, through website. This is my treatment room here. You see, I have those posters that I showed. Patients come in, I have plenty of room for family members. My staff, and this is part of marketing, tells families to bring their families in. Okay, Johnny's coming in, I want everyone in the room at the same time. I am there to make patients understand education and orthotics, period. Our website, we send every patient to go to the website to click on what foot type. You can see up here, it says, what's my foot type? And they can click on those. You can go to DeCaroPodiatry.com and you can click on, and you can foot type yourself. You can use that QR code that I gave you. I can send that to you, email me. You can market yourself on so many different levels. So I wanted to just kind of open these three things up to you. I'm going to let Randy kind of take over the rest. If you're interested in learning more, I do multiple education. I'm sure, Randy, we're going to be doing more of these. I'll be in Vegas this week. We're doing a pediatric conference in Utah in October, AAPPM. We're doing a whole hands-on workshop on biomechanics at SAM in Jamaica. If you want to join me in February, we're doing 8 hours. Region 3, we're doing our typical 4 hours in the Frank Sinatra room. And then Randy, like I said, hopefully we'll be doing some master classes together on marketing orthotics, growing practice, making people biomechanical experts. So once again, this was 16 hours boiled into 20 minutes. So hopefully I did an okay job summarizing it, but we have a lot of webinars and Zooms and sessions ahead of us to maybe expand on all this. So thank you very much. I'll stay here for questions. I saw one question came up after Randy. You will stay as late as you want to answer questions. And without further ado, Randy, I'll give the floor back to you.
All right. Thank you, Dr. DeCaro. That was great. Fantastic. So great information. And again, he touched on the importance of education and genetics and internal marketing. So all three are really, really important. I learned some things by listening to you, and I will see you in Vegas this week and look forward to learning more about this. So again, I'm not a podiatrist. Wanted to do a quick poll here before I get started. Just wondering, and you can, Sarah could take this way, but does it say on your homepage of your website that you actually have orthotics? Does it mention it on your website, in particular on your homepage? So I'm curious to see if you would, and by the way, last time we had a great participation in the webinar, and so at the end of this, curious to see what's what. And Sarah, I assume you can see this?
Sorry, I was muted. Yes, I can. And I'm looking at my other screen here, so I look like I'm sideways. For some reason in our polls, the first one was about the amount of orthotics people prescribed. So that one
Mhm.
was first. And so like I had to launch that one first before I could get to
Got
this one. So
it.
anyhow, why I launched it and then I ended it really quick. So if anyone saw that and got confused, that's why. But we've got it coming up. And are you able to see the results as a co-host, Randy?
I am. Mhm.
All right, perfect. I'm gonna go back into hiding.
All right. So it's basically saying that does it say on the homepage of your website that you offer orthotics or shoe inserts? And 53% said yes, 47% said no. Kind of interesting. Thanks for participating. Appreciate that. So let me move on here. So now we're going to go a little bit beyond what Dr. DeCaro had mentioned. We're going to go beyond the office into the web. And let me just do something on my screen. So basically, we'll talk about how to educate. And again, this is one of the words he uses, how to educate your patients, but this time, not just in the office, but online. Because everybody and their mother has a smartphone. So this is how we get information. We check out things, we're always reading things online. So your website is a tool. Social media, SEO, Google are all online vehicles to educate people. Okay. And we know that patients, they learn visually. So let's visually educate them and guide them to proper orthotics care. So I guess the fourth secret would be to have orthotics be more visible on your website. So, pardon the pun, but orthotics should not be a secret. They should not be hidden. Unfortunately, in most cases, you have to look really hard to find them on a website. And in many cases, you don't even see them at all on the homepage of a website. So over here, you want to be, they should be on the list of services in addition to heel pain and foot pain. Want to see orthotics so they know that you have it. It should be easy to find when looking under foot and ankle conditions. Again, instead of just heel pain, to be in there with the group about orthotics. And another secret is patient education, online patient education. So, blogs and articles specifically about orthotics, and not just for athletes, but for women in high heels and diabetics and children, like Dr. DeCaro mentioned. So, education is key. And, blogs, it's kind of just the word blog sounds boring, but blogs serve multiple purposes, but, they provide education. They also have keywords embedded into them. In the case of what we're doing these days is, if there's a blog about orthotics, and we have hundreds of them now because we've been building them, and there's keywords like orthotics or custom orthotics. Those are embedded into the blogs. Instead of pointing outside of your website, it can now point to an internal landing page that's specifically built to promote orthotics. And again, it's not about selling it, but showcasing it properly and talking about the benefit. Now, this is just an example of some landing pages we're in the process of beginning to build out, that will have probably an explainer video here about the benefits of orthotics, and other things like ebooks and so forth. We have ebooks already written. We're in the process of designing them. And as a bonus, we're spot campaigns. This is something that's been very, very successful because, again, most people learn visually. So what, like blogs I just mentioned a moment ago, typically are 200 to 300 words in a blog post. And again, they're embedded with keywords, which is great, but these are called spot campaigns. So like little mini photo ads that are mixed in with blogs, and they're sent to your website and Facebook and Twitter and Google, all on cruise control, all done for you. And so what we decided to do, because we've had a 5-year running history with this, which has been quite good. People read these things because it's just a short message with a visual and a call to action. So we're getting a lot of people requesting appointments to either check out their orthotics, or replace them, or inquire about custom orthotics. We're pushing the benefits of them. And again, because people learn visually, these spot campaigns are a great vehicle to kind of grab their attention because everybody's so busy, and guide them about orthotics. So another poll here, Sarah. This one is about, curious to learn how many pairs of custom orthotics do you prescribe on a weekly basis. So let's see what this turns out. So give it a moment.
Yep, that's been launched. If you can see those
Yep.
Results coming through, Randy.
See them coming in. Yep. So, and it says how many pairs of custom orthotics do you prescribe on a weekly basis? Now, not to say that it couldn't be about medical grade prefab orthotics as well. Let's see. All right, so it looks like 33% said that they prescribe just one pair on a weekly basis, one per week. 17% said that they do two pairs, and 50% said they do three or more. Interesting. So again, thank you for participating in that. Let me make that go away. And so let's talk about the numbers a little bit, because and these numbers really pertain to custom orthotics, but I know that medical grade prefab are also a great profit center. From what I've been told, maybe in the 65 to 70% profit. So, but we're using custom as an example, and $100 cost to a podiatry practice seems to be a pretty good norm, what I'm hearing from a lot of podiatrists. So using $100, if you're dispensing a pair for $500, well, it's a $400 profit. So if you're doing two pairs per day, 5 days a week, 10 pairs a week, times a $400 profit, well, that's $4,000 profit per week. If it's $4,000 a week times that's 16 grand in a month, $192,000 per year. Now I know for a fact that that's more money than a lot of podiatrists earn in the course of a year. According to Podiatry Management magazine, the average podiatrist in the United States makes $140,000 a year. Now some make less than that, and some make a whole lot more than that. But regardless, even if you were to cut those numbers in half, I mean, did one per day, still another almost $100,000 profit on top of what you're already doing. And I always remind podiatrists that this is totally in your wheelhouse. I mean, what Dr. DeCaro said before is that this is kind of your market, and who better to treat, patients for proper foot care than a podiatrist. So it's right there. It's not something new that you have to learn. Just be proactive. And I think that back to what Dr. DeCaro was saying about education, and I love the line which says competence breeds confidence. When you're competent in this and you understand it, a lot of what Dr. DeCaro was saying, then you're more confident. It's not about selling something. It's more about being an advocate and helping others so they do the right thing, and so that they don't go to Walmart to the Dr. Scholl's kiosk or the Good Feet store. So with that, we actually have some big news as of today. It's a special project we've been working on for the better part of 5 months now, and it totally revolves around helping podiatrists dispense a whole lot more orthotics. So there's been a lot of anticipation about this. We've gotten, to say the response has been overwhelming will almost be an understatement, but it's called Soul Marketing, and it's all about increasing the visibility and profits of orthotics, both online and in the office. So, and I believe that it's really going to be a game changer for a lot of podiatrists. And again, this is a gigantic market that's totally in your wheelhouse that is really underutilized by most podiatrists. So today is the official launch date. It's like we got the car built, the engine's in it, everything's ready to go. We're tweaking a couple things, but for the most part, it's ready to go. So I'm pretty excited about this. And I just want to share with you just an outline. If you want to learn more about this, we're looking for a small group of beta testers for this. So it's called Soul Marketing. It's all about increasing, visibility and profits of, orthotics. Now, there's a lot of useful features that are in here that come together to kind of showcase and help you in your practice promote orthotics. And again, on the web and in the office. So we're going to change some things. Most websites, I mean, almost all websites, and including some of ours too, where you just don't see orthotics promoted and showcased properly. That's going to change. Okay, it's going to have, like I said before, blogs that are embedded with keywords, or it'll link to a special landing page built into your website that's going to really showcase orthotics in a way that you've never seen before. Especially orthotics banners on the websites, appointment forms, and email orthotics campaigns, which, by the way, we've been doing this already for years, and it's been very successful, doing targeted campaigns to patients, existing patients and dormant patients about getting them back into the office. So it's really about, attracting new patients, but also, there's an expression in the sales world saying that your best prospect is your existing customer. So that would hold true with your patients. Get them in the office and educate them, like Dr. DeCaro was saying. Again, we do blogs on a weekly basis. We're now adding orthotic blogs each month, and those spot campaigns that I share with you, we're adding additional spot campaigns each month, all revolving around orthotics, ebooks around orthotics, a social media library. We can pull images and post them on whether it be LinkedIn or Instagram, things like that, and then patient room posters. So when people are sitting in your waiting room, staring at the wall, wouldn't it be nice if they're looking at a really cool poster that spoke to all the benefits of orthotics? And by the way, beyond just the feet, whether it's the knees, the back, the neck, there's a lot of benefits to orthotics. So whether it's a paper poster that we're designing and or a digital signage that would be in the form of a TV monitor in the waiting room and or the exam rooms. So just like patients go to you guys because you're a podiatrist, we're specialists as well. We've been doing podiatry only for over a decade now. So we've gotten quite good at what we do. And a big part of what we do is taking podiatrists that are completely invisible online and making them visible, in particular on page 1 of Google. And so we want to do something very similar now relative to orthotics. So make orthotics where it's invisible or hidden to really visible on your homepage and throughout your website. So we've got a lot of fans that we've helped over the years of practices that have really grown because of our services, but this is something different. So we are launching this as of today, and we're beta testing it to tweak it and looking for a small number of users to about a group of 25 to help us get feedback and document how this is improving. So if you're currently, doing 3 pairs a week, and that gets to 6 pairs a week, we want to know about that. And so we're looking for that, and in exchange for that, we're offering significant discounts on the program. So if you're interested in getting ahead of this, because nobody else out there in the industry has this, and again, orthotics is just a great thing. I call it a win-win-win. If you properly fit patients to orthotics, you're doing the right thing for them. This is not like selling snake oil. I mean, you are helping them in many ways with proper foot care. And if it's if that's the case, you're going to sell more orthotics, dispense more orthotics, make more money, have happier patients. And by the way, the orthotic manufacturers will be pretty happy about this as well. So that's the win-win-win. It's going to give you a competitive advantage. And a lot of podiatrists are really kind of annoyed about losing a ton of business to the Good Feet store and Amazon and of course Dr. Scholl's. And why? Because they have massive advertising going on. And we have a system that can enable you to piggyback on that and leverage that, because they've kind of in a way set the table for podiatrists if you are proactive about this. I think that if you take into consideration what Dr. DeCaro was mentioning about education and being proactive, and again, I call it advocacy. It's not about selling, it's being an advocate to help your patients and keep them away from Walmart and the Dr. Scholl's kiosk, so they don't buy a $2 piece of foam. Instead, they're fitted for something that's proper, whether it's medical grade orthotic or custom. So, if you're interested in learning more about this, we have what's called an orthotics acceleration session where we can share with you how to market orthotics better online, give you a closer look at what we're about to launch, how to showcase and promote orthotics both online and in your office, and take a look at your overall presence and how you might compare to some of your competitors in your area. So if you're interested in this, and my calendar is getting full because doctors haven't really started promoting this in any significant way as of yet, but I'm getting calls from manufacturers and a fair amount of podiatrists on a regular basis that want to know about this. So this is our first webinar tonight about this launch. So if you're interested in being one of the first to learn about this and interested in trying it at a major discount, text me. Just text beta and your first and last name to me at 917-572-5088. And we'll get you on the calendar. I am heading to Las Vegas Wednesday of this week. Won't be back until next week, but next week and the week after, there's some availability. So, first come, first serve, and most podiatrists that I've shared this with have been pretty intrigued. So with that, I'm going to start winding down and love to get some thoughts and feedback, any questions that you all might have. And here's some contact info. You need to reach myself or Dr. DeCaro. And we will both be at the IFAF event in Vegas this coming week at the Wynn Hotel.
Fancy.
Right, so with that.
So I know you guys can see the questions as co-hosts, but do you want me to field them for you?
I can
Sure.
start with
That'd be
the
great. Yeah.
question if you want, or
Okay. So, sorry, there's a loud car going by my window. All right. How do you solicit the pediatricians? There's like 4 questions with one. So let's start with, how do you solicit pediatricians? So looking for those doctor referrals.
so that is the question I get all the time. I mean, lecturing on pediatrics 25 times a year, it's always the same question. And Dr. Roth, I'm glad you asked that question, because you don't need to. That's the answer. It is hard to solicit pediatricians because pediatricians are not well educated on biomechanics and the need for prevention, as well as the need for orthotics in kids. The way that you solicit the pediatricians is by going around them, by taking your adult patients that you already have plenty of, seeing if they've procreated, confirming their procreation status, and having them send their kids in to see you, who inevitably have the same feet, or inevitably will most likely have a foot issue or need orthotics throughout their life. So marketing the pediatricians is very tricky. You're not buying them pizza and getting them to send patients in. But once you start treating kids effectively with biomechanics through genetics and education, then they all start to tumble in, because moms and dads talk at soccer games and field hockey games and such. This kind of goes to the last question, off the same thing. Yes, I do surgery, and I do plenty of different procedures. I mean, if you want, I can send you my resume of the procedures that I've done. But I do plenty of surgery. But I'm highly biomechanically based. But back to your original question, the best way that I market pediatricians actually is through early intervention groups, physical therapists, occupational therapists, and speech therapists. So early intervention groups. And I have a whole hour on marketing at our annual American College Foot and Ankle Pediatric meeting. Dr. Roth, you're out on the West Coast anyway. Come join us next month in Utah. And we have a whole big mix of surgical and non-surgical topics. And how many pairs of custom orthotics do I make per week? I would say, I don't know, 15, let's say, something like that, around that ballpark. So I was definitely in the 2 or more category when I voted.
Sure.
I was curious, and this isn't pediatric specific, and Randy, I would love your thoughts on this as well, what you've seen being a practice marketing specialist. Is referral-based marketing, do you feel like it's kind of run its course or in terms of physician referral marketing? Do you think it's still viable, or do you feel like podiatrists are spinning their wheels doing family physician, like general practitioner referral programs?
I think it's great, down the street business, good networking and again, advocacy. And so there's nothing wrong with it. I think it's great. So, and a lot of times people are buying you, they like you, they like your confidence. And again, confidence breeds confidence. And if they like you, they may not be sure what you're talking about, but it sounds like this guy knows, always passionate about it. And building relationships like that, absolutely. Strategic partners, strategic alliances. I think it's alive and well.
I just know, I know Podiatry Contact Connection, your bread and butter is the digital marketing side. And that's one of the reasons I was kind of bringing that up, because I just know from just speaking with a lot of podiatrists out and about that it's, getting into those referring practices to even make a case, to have a lunch and learn, those sorts of things. I just feel like everyone just struggles with that. So I just didn't know if it was still something that anyone should even like continue to like I said, spin their wheels on.
Dr. DeCaro can speak about it, but I think that a lot of podiatrists have a thing about they don't want to be salesy. So it's like doing a presentation. But again, I call it out, and I'm not a podiatrist. I'm like from the outside looking in. But if you're passionate about what you do, and you're educating people, that's a good thing. That's not selling. That's sharing.
Right. Do you find that you're I don't know why there are like 3 million motorcycles driving outside my house right now. It is obnoxious. Dr. DeCaro, do you find that your practice spends time going into referring physician offices to build those relationships, or are you really just banking on your brand?
Zero. We absolutely waste zero time doing that. I mean, think about the time that it takes to get out. My most powerful marketing machine is myself. Spending time with patients. You realize how many people someone talks to when they see a doctor that they love. How often have you been in a dinner conversation? I saw this amazing doctor. If you ever have this. So spending time and educating the patient, you are your most powerful marketing tool. And you go into these lunch and learns, and half the doctors are there, half aren't. They come and go. They already know your name. They're busy. It's really to me it's an antiquated way of doing things when you already have yourself in the room with patients.
And that's I like that you just brought that up, that you're already in the room with patients, because we're talking about competing with the Good Feet store, competing with Amazon, and they spend these thousands, millions of dollars on advertising campaign. Mm-hmm. You've got the low-hanging fruit. They're there.
You know what you have hanging? You have your doctor degree hanging. That's what you have.
Exactly.
You don't have that.
Exactly. Like Amazon doesn't have a person right in front of them. And that's why they have to spend millions of dollars on those campaigns. Exactly. And so like I hate saying take advantage, because it sounds like you're doing something sneaky, but like maximize that opportunity, I suppose.
I mean, by the way, there are some larger practices where, they have a marketing person, so to speak, that goes there. So it's not the doctor, it's a marketing person. Part of the responsibility is to go out to the community to point people back to the practice and back to the doctor. So not necessarily the doctor, because his or her time is worth, a lot, and they need to be in the office treating patients, not knocking on doors, but they have other people do it. And I think that in many cases, it doesn't have to be a large, but I've seen it more often in a larger practice where they do drive and they build, whether it's chiropractors or whoever.
For sure. Absolutely. So I'm going to go to Dr. Ross, the rest of his question there. Do you have a lab that you want to share that you use?
I use a small lab in Connecticut called Stride Labs. They make all my custom orthotics. I sometimes send out, I sent 2 patients out today. I know this is like the antithesis of what this webinar is about, but you have to do what's best for your patient. I don't make certain types of accommodative orthotics. And so, I speak to my patients like I would speak to my mother, and how I would treat her. And this kind of goes along the question from Dr. Barkoff, who in fact is a fellow Long Islander. I cast the old school way. We use plaster casts, prone position. Dr. Barkoff, if you want to get on the Port Jeff Ferry and come up 91, come visit me. I'm right up there, right off of 91 on your way to go skiing. So we have everyone come in and we cast them prone and subtalar neutral. I don't do orthotic castings on every day. We actually, if you go to my website, DeCaro Podiatry, once again, which Podiatry Content Connection did an amazing job, you can see that once every 3 weeks, I have what's called a gait clinic. where we cast 30, 40 patients at a time. And so, and just to kind of close the door on that, I just don't believe, and this is just me being an old man, that really there's any better way than the old school way of throwing some plaster on.
Gotta appreciate the OG.
Right.
All right. So I'm just kind of going down the list because I know we've hit on a couple of these. You do pediatric surgery. When do you cast for? Oh, okay. So when do you cast for custom orthotic? I know you said how do you cast? You do the plaster. When do you cast? I'm not sure if that question is regarding, do you start with an OTC before you cast for a custom? But
Patient comes in, they have a certain condition, they need an orthotic. Sometimes there's over-the-counter devices that are appropriate. If that's the case, bonus, because they're leaving with a product that's going to make them better. Sometimes they're more intricate and they need a custom orthotic. If a patient needs a custom orthotic, I'm not going to waste their time with an OTC. If a patient doesn't need a custom orthotic and I get them an OTC medical grade device on the spot, it's going to be quicker and less expensive for them. Sometimes they can get one of each, but based on the shoes that they're wearing, right? So it's all patient dependent, and every decision I make is not based on how much money I think someone has, the ability to what kind of shoes they have. It's based on medically what is best for them.
well, and I think that's really key what you said earlier about referring some patients out, because if that's not what you are really, really good at, and you know someone else is really, really good at it, are you going to risk your entire reputation? I mean, it would be your entire reputation, but I mean, there's a domino effect on if you don't do something as good as somebody else and you know someone else is better, that I think goes a long way instead of just trying to do something that you're not a master at. And especially finding those referring partners as well. It's like, okay, well, you know, I treat Sever's disease better than you do, so let's do a little trade.
Absolutely. We have this whole thing where we do these practice management seminars and we talk about competition. There's no competition. You know, it's all teamwork. It's all framed in that manner. Of course, you know, you have to be the best at what you do, and you have to be confident about it, and you have to know what you don't do best, and referring out will only build relationships in the community.
Right. Yeah, I think that just goes such a long way with credibility and trust when you are willing to admit that this isn't my specialty.
Sure.
There aren't any other questions that have come through, but I just have something that I think is interesting, just because when I got started in this industry, it was in the orthotics game. So I always go a little wild on these.
That's where we met.
Yes, exactly. On the treadmill.
On the treadmill.
I need to get back on the treadmill. Anyway, I digress. But I know when I worked for a lab, and this is going to sound when we're talking about like trying not to doing what's best for your patients. But when I worked for a lab, it was, you know, how can we get our podiatrists to prescribe more orthotics? And I was like, we can't, like, they need patients. We can't just like, these are custom orthotics. They're not just like doing cast on mannequins, you know, like, what are you talking about? But the concept of duplicate pairs would always come up. And so I'm curious to know your thoughts on the necessity of duplicate pairs for different types of running shoes, or shoes, different types of shoes, you know, athletic shoes, dress shoes.
So one of the biggest problems that we have in our profession is that a patient will come in and they will dictate the service. They will come in and say, I have this job, I wear these shoes, this is the kind of orthotic that I need. And you can't let them run the show. You know, if you go to a urologist, you're not going to tell them exactly, you know, how they need to do their job. And it's the same thing. So the way to best get patients multiple pairs of orthotics is through need. In my practice, patient comes in, they're going to get a pair of custom orthotics if that's what they need. And it's going to be something that's not going to fit in everything. It's going to be based on, of course, their foot type. And foot type also, we have categories that we hand out to patients on my website. Again, thank you, Randy. We have shoeless. So based on what foot type you are, when you get your custom orthotic, these are shoes that are going to work really well to get the best results out of orthotics. Once they get their good results, the pain goes away, they feel better, they run faster, whatever their goals are, then they can get 1,000 pairs for all I care. But what they have to understand is that when they scale down the orthotic, it's not always going to be as effective. But the best way to get multiple pairs is through them loving their first pair and then understanding what other kinds of shoes they wear and why they would need them in certain scenarios.
What are your thoughts on, so this is just something, I, in the last couple of years, have taken up golf, and now I think I have a problem. And not only me, but literally, and because a lot of people that I'm friends with know what I do. I'm not a podiatrist, but they know what my industry is. And they literally are asking me, I'm like, you don't want to ask me, I can lead you in the right direction. But my point is I am around golfers all of the time. And it just, what are your thoughts on, I mean, in my community, there's like a golf outing every weekend. If there was a podiatrist sponsoring these events or just making themselves, like just throwing some sort of brochure or a flyer into the little bag that every single golfer gets for all of these events, like, are you a proponent of community events like this? Randy, what are your thoughts? And say that's very much a marketing, it's more of an external marketing tactic than an internal, but it's super specific, it's super targeted, and you know how many people are going to see your pieces. So I was curious if you've been involved in anything like that and what your experiences.
No, I think it makes sense. I mean, I just played pickleball for the first time recently. That's another great area, an opportunity for podiatrists, right? I hear
And
a lot of
just
people
let us know that you're too old to play tennis.
Yeah. So speaking specifically on the biomechanics of golf, if you have a foot structure that, let's just say, for example, overpronates, right, which many foot structures are, if you're taking a swing back and you're going through your swing and your foot is, your foundation, don't even call it a foot, your foundation is moving and you're trying to get an accurate golf swing, it is amazing how much your feet skew the ball. And if you look at professional golfers, they all wear orthotics. And so, you know, Sarah, I mean, 100% pitching a tent. I don't know where you live, but, you know, hey, I'd come by and pitch a tent and advertise, because there's no better way to actually improve your golf swing than through orthotics. It's amazing how many people have a hook or a slice. You put them in orthotics and all of a sudden their golf game is drastically improved. So I agree with you 100%. And yeah, and from a mechanical standpoint, it's a no-brainer.
And the reason I bring that up is just because I think so many offices are like grasping at straws on how to, how can I market? How can I get out? I need to do more advertising. And it's just like, there are opportunities right there. So many opportunities. And that's like, go to a Lamaze class. How many pregnant women are just hanging
Absolutely.
out that have sore feet? They're everywhere. And then put together a Google AdWords campaign to go with it. Golfer, like, first of all, you've got, like, the internet knows that I'm a golfer, and so it's going to tie together. It's going to do the correlation of I'm a golfer and I've got sore feet, and if you're combining those two, boom, advertisement right in my face all day, every day. And that's where Randy is, like, there's just so many pieces that you can put together, and it's where you make those connections. They're right there. They're right there.
Well, things, I mean, like Dr. DeCaro says, that everybody has inherited, some sort of foot problems. Nobody has a perfect foot. Just like a chiropractor would tell you that nobody has a perfect spine. And so if they're coming to you, in most cases, when they come to see a podiatrist, they're coming through your website. And so if it's for heel pain, foot and ankle pain, but as I mentioned, these bullet points, I'm sure Dr. DeCaro could say, he's probably saying, well, an orthotic will treat this, will treat, probably all of those bullet points are related to orthotics. But what happens, and it's unfortunate as a missed opportunity, is that people are, coming here for an ingrown toenail, and then podiatrists are often pigeonholed in that, patients tend to remember you as their toenail doctor, and then they hear commercial on TV from Dr. Scholl's, and then what do? They drive to Walmart and they go to the kiosk at Walmart, and it's really kind of silly. You would think they would just assume that a podiatrist, a foot and ankle specialist, could treat them, but they see that, I got a foot, that gel pad looks pretty cool. Pick it up for $20 at Target or Walmart or whatever. And so they do that, and it lasts a week or two or three, but so just a piece of foam, and they're being underserved. And again, who's the best person to fit them is a podiatrist.
And we speak about it's on that, just kind of piggybacking that and speaking about marketing yourself. Someone comes in with an ingrown nail. Two things. Number one, a lot of the times it's biomechanically based. We get plenty of patients with fungal nails biomechanically based. It's biomechanically based. You shoot a pneumatic nail gun in your roofing. All right, maybe that's not mechanically based, but most of the stuff we do is mechanically based. And so we always take the opportunity, and thanks to you guys at PCC, patient stands up, they have their ingrown toenail. I throw a foot type at them. It takes me 5 seconds to do. Once again, I can teach that to anybody in 4 easy steps. You had the QR code before. They're a C, they're an E, they're a D. I say, okay, we took care of this ingrown nail. You're a D. I want you to go on the website this weekend while you're recovering from the surgery that I just did on you. I want you to read about it. And then I want you to make an appointment, and we can talk about what possibly went into the issue that you had today, which was the ingrown nail or the fungal nails or the hammer toe or whatever. The issue is that a lot of podiatrists don't link directly to biomechanics, and they leave it to Dr. Scholl's to do, but we use our website, I think, effectively. And I think this is where you're going with your marketing, just becoming an orthotics content provider and someone that you are the go-to no matter what. And I think, Randy, when we got together, I think it was just a perfect fit. Like, I can help the doctor make it easy to understand the biomechanics and get someone to go to the website, and then you can be the one that kind of drive the marketing and drive the patients into the office.
Yeah, good fit.
And I think too, I actually think it can be a benefit to a lot of physicians that speak to patients who have tried the gels and everything at Walgreens, and because then and it's not, I hesitate to say this because I don't want to emphasize the fact that it's hard to make patients pay cash for certain things. There can be a challenge there, but on the same token, it's like, you've tried everything else, right? Are you ready to pay? Like, you've tried everything else. You finally got smart. Now you're here. Now maybe pay cash and get rid of your pain.
And often, and two, one thing that you have to make clear to the patient is that what they got was not an orthotic. And that's really the crux of it all. They didn't get an orthotic. An orthotic is a custom device designed specifically for someone's foot based on some form of mold. And so when these companies, they do this job where they say, come in custom orthotics, stand in this machine in Walmart, or orthotics, they throw that term around. So as physicians, we have to educate patients that they haven't tried an orthotic, right? And on the cash note, we just don't really struggle with that. And I actually find in general that the person who has the most cash is the least likely to invest the money into something. So I really just harken back to education, not judging someone on how much cash you think they have or not, because a lot of insurances don't cover orthotics. I think that's a great thing, really. I'm sure most people who deal with insurance companies wouldn't disagree, but the old thing is like, well, it's cash, the insurance isn't covering, so I'm struggling. What you're really struggling in is really educating the patient of the need.
Can you reiterate how many pairs you make per week?
Yeah, we do. I would say probably 10, 15 patients a week, pairs a week. It's hard to quantify because there are different weeks that are, slower or busier, or I'm traveling. So I would say somewhere around there. Yeah, that's about a ballpark. But I also do a ton of over the counter. There's a lot of kids out there that I actually provide my own over the counter orthotics to because they don't need a custom. So we do a lot of pairs a week. Let's put it that way. A lot of them are custom and some are non-custom.
So what are your thoughts on office training when it comes to these things? Because
oh yeah,
the frontline people are.
I don't mean to interrupt you, but you got me all fired up. They spend like 10-15 minutes with us, right? I mean, if it's a new patient, they're spending a half hour, but in general, where are your patients spending their time? And Randy touched on this. They're in the waiting room, staring at the dust on the wall, right? No, they shouldn't be. They should be staring at something that's going to be fruitful for them. In my office, they're staring at foot typing charts, right? And every employee of mine knows how to foot type. Every employee has a good pair of orthotics. Every employee has a good pair of shoes because they are an extension of you. And if a patient's going to, you leave the room, right? And then the medical assistant comes in and the patient says, how often does this happen, right? It happens all the time. Like, well, the doctor said that I should get orthotics. What do you think, right? If you are training your staff well, if you're providing them the care that they already have, they're going to say to the patient, I have orthotics and I love them. And that's going to be the clincher, right? If you weren't able to close the deal, they're going to close the deal. As opposed to if your staff isn't trained and they go into like, well, I don't know, that doctor he does a lot of orthotics, but I don't know your condition. Like that does not work. So, oh yeah, training your staff. I mean, we do at AEPPM, I'm doing 2 hours on the medical assistants. Actually, this is a secret, but I know it's going to be posted on podiatrymeetings.com, so it won't be much of a secret. But I'd rather train the assistants to foot type, right? Because they're actually, I find, more valuable and spend more time with the patients, and they're going to be really good advocates for your practice. And when someone backs something up, I just think it's all that much better.
Agreed.
Great
yeah,
point.
that enthusiasm is not phony, and patients, just really thrive off of that, and they can feel that real belief in what they're discussing.
Mm-hmm.
Like going to the restaurant and asking the waiter, like, how's this salmon? Like, I don't really like fish. It's like, it's like I just had it tonight. It was great. It's fresh. It's wonderful. Yeah, I'll take it.
Or if they don't like fish, be like, I don't like fish, but I know someone who does.
Yeah.
So those are all the questions that have come through. I mean, my God, we could talk about this for 9 hours. What'd you say? How long was the lecture?
We have a 16-hour course, and we even run out of time with that.
Exactly. But I think what's really cool about having both of you here is that there is a process to this, and it starts with the online and that awareness, and with Randy and his team. And then once they're there, you've got the physician, you've got the staff, and the in the moment, real time experience. And then it doesn't end there. There's the follow-up, there's the reputation management after all of it. So there's a lot of moving parts here. And Randy kind of sandwiches them that middle part really nicely. But again, it really comes down to all of it, but that experience in the office is vital, but you got to get them in the door first, right?
Right.
So lots of information. We're here.
Let's do this again.
I'm overwhelming myself, but Randy, I don't know if you want to put up that slide again for the contact information. We can close out with that. We do. While you're doing that, we've got one more question. How does a DPM choose a custom orthotic lab? There are labs charging $45 and others charging $120 a pair. I really have like my own personal thoughts, just because I
I chose my lab a long time ago, and I pay a lot more than $120 per orthotic pair, and that like shocks some people. But rule number one is you cannot choose based on the cost. I talk to so many podiatrists, unfortunately, that are like, well, Why would I switch to X Lab if I'm only paying $50? And a little news flash to those podiatrists out there, and another one of those little secrets, it's probably not a custom orthotic. And I always say in my lectures, I would give it the DeCaro test. You ready for this? If you're not sure if you trust your orthotic lab, send the orthotic lab 2 left casts. See what they get. See what they bring. If they send you a pair, I don't know. And I know I've pissed off some labs by having my doctors test this, but you can't base it on money. You have to talk to the people who are successful in orthotics, and you have to use their labs, whether they charge $300 a pair or $50 a pair, whatever is the best for your patient. Because another thing, real quick, another reason that podiatrists don't like orthotics is the trouble of someone coming in and having a problem. Sarah, I have this top 10 PIA orthotic patient complaints and how to solve them lecture that I give, right? And you can fill in what PIA means. And I talk to podiatrists about like the top 10 reasons why like orthotics come back, and no one likes to deal with that. And so the better the lab that you use, regardless of the cost, the better, the happier you're going to be, the happier a patient's going to be, and the less headaches. There's nothing worse than a patient coming in and you're spending 15 minutes with them, and you have no idea what's wrong with the orthotic because you use this non-quality lab to save a few bucks. No good, nada. Don't do orthotics if that's the case.
I think the trickiest part with a physician looking for a lab is they literally all say the same thing: quality, service, turnaround time, price. And it's like, okay, if you're all the best in service, if you're all the best in quality, you all have great turnaround time, and you all have the best price, what's the difference? And unfortunately, I mean, I have had experience with certain customer service teams that I know personally, that I know are on point. A customer service team can be fantastic, and the people who are actually making the orthotics are not perfect. So it's like, they actually do have great service, but then you're sending the orthotic back, and if you're not sending in digital casts, so there's the shipping time for the plaster cast to get there, the usually 10-day turnaround time in the lab, and then ship it back. That's 2 weeks that a patient has to wait for an orthotic, and then it's wrong.
Sarah, I'm going to ratchet this up a level just because we're talking about this.
Yeah.
This is probably going to shock a few people on this Zoom and anyone who watches the video. I actually pay my orthotic lab to come to my office and see the patient with me during the casting.
That's top quality service.
So using what lab do you use? Find a really good lab and form an affiliation like I have. And you guys can all email me on how I do it and come talk to me at meetings, but that's actually how I do it. I don't mess around with Joe Blow making my orthotic in some other state and they never saw. I actually have them come to my office, see the patient with me, and it's just that's just what I do. I mean, I think that works best. It's not always feasible or practical, but if you can do that in your area, go for it.
Right. And you in your area, I know, just being on the East Coast, there's a lot of labs out there.
There's a lot of labs up here.
Yes. If you're not, like you said, that's not, hopefully that could be feasible for a lot. And what it could also be the bummer is someone is close, but just isn't quite great.
That's a bummer.
Yes. But I have, obviously it sounds like if you want to reach out to Dr. DeCaro and his lab experience personally, and I have my own personal opinions and referrals of people that I have worked with in the past, just professionally, and I just know how they work, and I just have an inside view of a handful of labs. So if you want my opinion, I'm happy to share that when I'm not being recorded. So just let me know.
All right.
All right. So we have contact information for Randy for the orthotics program. And with that, this is being recorded. So we will hopefully have this up on podiatrymeetings.com, our Practice Partner Academy page. We have all of our archives on the site. So be sure to check it out there. And if you have any specific questions, you can obviously reach out to be heard at podiatrymeetings.com. But obviously, if you have specific questions about growing your practice with Randy's orthotics program, the specific spot campaigns, and the new program that launched today, make sure to text Randy your information and he'll get you all taken care of. I'm
And
done.
come join me somewhere in the US for a biomechanics lecture.
Say that again.
And come find me somewhere in the United States and come to one of my biomechanics lectures. So
Absolutely. Yeah. So also go to podiatrymeetings.com. October 21st is my birthday, but it's also
we did it for you.
it's also Dr. DeCaro's meeting. So if that helps you remember, the Dr. DeCaro's meeting is also Sarah's birthday.
Nice.
Just use that. Use that.
I love it.
It's on the calendar, and there's a direct link to that the meeting right there for FACFAP. We always get rave reviews for your meetings, so I know I'm dying to get out to one. Maybe I'll just come out for my
Yeah,
birthday.
you got to do it. Don't worry. When I'll corner you and the next time I see you.
I know.
I'll get
I'm
you in
still
there.
supposed to come from the one I missed during COVID, so
That's right.
I've got to make up. So maybe I'll do that next one. All right, you guys, thanks so much for joining us this evening. It was awesome. I don't know off the top of my head when our next one is because we've been doing some rescheduling, but I think we're going to email you. So keep your eyes peeled and we'll get some more information out to you as soon as possible. Thanks again, you guys, and we'll see you
Thanks
soon.
a lot.
Okay, thank you.
You.
Bye.
Bye.
I can't end it. There we go.